Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another show of The Democratic View. And I am the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano. And on a very miserable September afternoon, we have here a lady who will brighten anybody's life. Her name is Bridget Fleming.
You're very sweet, Phyllis. Thank you.
And she is presently a council person on Southampton,
Right.
and running for the position of state senator.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you got to this position and a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Well, you're right. I'm on the town council in the town of Southampton. I live in Sag Harbor, in the Noyac area of Sag Harbor, with my husband, who's a carpenter, has a little general contracting business out of our home, and our son Jay, who's in the Sag Harbor Elementary School. He's in 4th grade now. I was an assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office for almost 10 years. That was from 1991 to 2000. And then when I met my husband, he and I decided to move out east to raise a family. And he knew right away that he wanted to settle in Sag Harbor. And I came out to look at the town with him, and 2 weeks later we had entered into a contract on a house. We just fell in love. He already knew, but I fell in love right away. And it is a perfect place to raise a family. We live very close to the bay, the Noyac Bay, and a little beach, and the community's lovely, the schools are great. It's really been great. I have a matrimonial law practice on Main Street in Sag Harbor, although these days I don't have much time for my law practice. I'm mostly politicking and being on the town board. So.
And where are you from originally?
I was raised in Alexandria, Virginia. My folks are from Brooklyn. They met in high school in Brooklyn, and I have 7 brothers and sisters. So they started their family in Brooklyn, then they moved to Manhattan, they moved to New Jersey, which is where I was born, and then for work reasons, they moved down to Alexandria, Virginia, which is right outside of Washington, D.C.
I know it well. I went to American University.
Oh, right. We've talked about this, because
I do know Alexandria, Virginia.
My high school was on Wisconsin Avenue and Porter Street, which is not far from, in Washington, D.C. So it's not far from AU, American University.
Right, yes, of course.
So I was a ballet dancer. I think I told you my high school there on Wisconsin Avenue was an academy that fed into the Washington Ballet Company. And so following high school, I danced for the company for a couple of years, and then I came to New York to pursue a career in ballet, to continue to dance. And I ended up leaving ballet and then went to Hunter College, which was near where I was living. I worked at Lincoln Center. And went to Hunter College, and then ended up going to law school at the University of Virginia because they offered me a full scholarship. So
UVA.
I was, yep, wahoo. And then curiously, my first winter vacation in law school, I was on an Amtrak train. I don't know if you want to hear this whole story, but it's a good story. Well, I was coming back north on an Amtrak train. Those old Southern trains, they do, they have like a dining room and a dining car, right? So when you're traveling alone, they seat you across from whomever else is traveling alone. They sat me across from a distinguished-looking elderly gentleman whom I did not recognize, and we got into conversation. I was a first-year law student, so I told him all my theories about the Bill of Rights and James Madison, cameras in the courtroom, whatever. About an hour into the conversation, I said to him, "You sound like a lawyer. Where do you practice?" And it turns out he was the district attorney in Manhattan, Robert Morgenthau, but I didn't realize who he was.
My God!
I know.
What a bit of luck.
Well, the thing is, then he said he was the district attorney in Manhattan, and I still didn't get it, Phyllis. I thought he was like an assistant district attorney or something. So I kept talking. The Robert Chambers case, the famous preppy murder in Central
Park.
Sure, I do. Excuse me.
I remember it well.
That was going on then, so we talked about that and my theories, And finally I said to him, "I'm Bridget Fleming," and he said, "I'm Robert Morgenthau." And at that point I realized I felt so foolish because I really didn't know who he was. So
Gee, I've traveled that train so many times.
Have you?
I
love that
never met
train.
anyone.
Well, I love the train. I used to travel a lot by train, and I guess that's why, so I could hook up with him. But he ended up scratching his name and phone number on my Amtrak ticket and offering me a job, asking me to come up and work at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which is a great, great office. And I had a good 10 years there. I started out as a sex crimes prosecutor. Well, first I started out in the regular trial division, and I was specialized in sex crimes under Linda Fairstein. And then Mr. Morgenthau asked me, after about 4 years, to run a unit that prosecuted fraud in public programs. So we ran,
Wonderful.
large-scale investigations into welfare fraud, public housing fraud, and Medicaid fraud. Yeah, it was a great experience. Mr. Morgenthau is somebody who was kind of beyond reproach. He had such courage, never took politics into consideration. I know because I was the chief of a unit and it was fairly high profile at the time. It was during the Clinton years when there was a lot of focus on welfare reforms, and there was a lot of grant money for prosecuting welfare, and we made big changes in terms of how the program was administered in order to shore up any kind of loopholes or places where people could be dishonest within the system. And he was, he was always very clear that if there was a crime, we prosecute it. We don't care about political agendas. And I like to think, there are so many of us now throughout New York State in government, people who've come from that office. I like to think that was kind of a launching pad, for those of us who really care about integrity in government, because you really can't get a better model than Mr. Morgenthau on those issues.
Oh, he has an absolutely incredible reputation.
Yeah, he's fun. Yeah, he's good man.
So then you came out here with you met your husband and married. I thought you were going to say you met him on the train.
That's not a bad idea. No. I met him at a yoga studio.
It's a little different. And so then you came out here and started your family, and I know you spent some time with your child home.
That's right. Yeah, I wanted to. I felt so fortunate to have a baby. I had a really nice, a good career. Like so many women, you sort of have to choose when you're going to take that break to have children. Not everybody chooses to take a full break, of course, but you have to find the time in your career. Some have their family early and then focus on their career, and I think I have one of the American women paths that is, I think, so ideal. I had a great career, and then I had a really nice opportunity to take care of my family and make sure my son had a good start with good nutrition and, learning how to read and basic moral ideas and that kind of thing. And then once he was ready for full-time school, I went back to practicing law, and then immediately a number of different people approached me and suggested that I should run for office. And then actually Anna Thronholst, who's now the supervisor in Southampton, was then a councilwoman, asked me if I would run on a ticket with her as a council person when she ran for supervisor. So I knew that even though nobody knew who I was at that point, I had been on a Citizens Advisory Council in Noyak, but I knew that there would be a special election because I expected that she would win the election. So I knew that if I didn't get in the first time, there'd be a special and I could do that. And that's exactly what happened. I lost by an extremely small margin the first time I ran, and then I was elected immediately after that in a special election. And that was back in 2010, in March of 2010. And now I was just re-elected in November last year for a full term.
And so now you are running for state senate.
That's
I know
right.
you had a primary battle with
That's right.
Jennifer Mertz.
That's right.
And won rather handily, I might add.
Yes, I got 80% of the vote, so it was a 4-to-1 margin. Very, very energizing to win with those kind of numbers.
Do you think that that kind of going through the rigors of the primary and even spending the funds for the primary, do you think that was helpful, or do you think it sort of took away some of your I don't know, steam, perhaps?
Right. It's a very good question, and I'm not sure that I have a definitive answer. Unfortunately, money plays such a large role in politics, even at this level.
No, really? Oh,
You know, I just
I can't
introduced.
believe it.
I just introduced a resolution to ask the state legislature to ask Congress to send a bill to overturn the Citizens United ruling. It didn't pass, unfortunately. It broke down on political lines. And I sit on a council, on the town board, which is a majority conservative. So, unfortunately, it didn't pass. We had a great presentation by a citizens group called Public Citizen, I think is the name of it. And there were lots and lots of people who showed up and made great arguments about how devastating that decision has been, with just this unfettered flow of money by a very few individuals, really diluting individual votes.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it means that candidates and elected officials spend so much time, fundraising, that it's a distraction. But it also means that, even the very best still have some ties to, the people who have provided money for their elections. And it's a terribly destructive part of our system. I would love, love, love to be able to do something in the way of campaign finance reform.
Well, you can start with the state.
Yes,
and,
it's something I'd like to focus on.
And then we can move out to the country.
Well, one step
Battle
at a time, absolutely. But that is something, if Citizens United were to be overturned, the states would have to ratify, if it's a amendment to the United States Constitution, which is what that movement is about. The folks who brought this idea to me on the town board are part of a national movement to try to get the states to ratify an amendment that Congress would send to them. It's a big deal. It was a very, very destructive decision. Yes,
I don't think you're alone in thinking that. I don't know anybody that hasn't complained about it.
Right, but you were asking about the primary. The question of the expenditure of resources is a very, very good question. And little inside baseball, we had to decide whether we wanted to spend our resources and our messaging on the primary race, or whether we should focus our attention right away on the general and start the messaging there and start the spending of resources there. And we decided on the latter. It was a bit of a gamble, because I've only run one poll. I did that with regard to my general opponent and not the primary opponent. So we weren't 100% sure that it was going to be safe, but the huge margin that we won by confirmed that it was a good decision, and now it's onward and upward.
So you are actually running against Ken LaValle.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And from the way I understand it, all of the state senators from Long Island are Republicans.
They're all Republicans, they're all white, they're all men, they are all endorsed by the Conservative Party, they're all anti-choice, they're all against same-sex marriage. They tend to vote in a block, even though some of them are very senior. My opponent, Senator LaValle, has been in office for 36 years. He was elected in 1977 when Saturday Night Fever was the hot movie.
Oh, my.
Yes, it's a long, long time. And
wow.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that I'm running, because honestly, Phyllis, I just feel as though that level of sort of monolithic viewpoint, that level of long-term control, I think is destructive of the system. And I think folks who serve in one capacity for over 3 decades have got to be tied more to the culture of Albany than to the immediate needs of the district. And so I feel as though, as a mom, as a small business owner, as a member of our local government, having, like for instance, I as a member of the town board have to authorize that we write a check to the MTA every every time we have a warrant. So twice a month, we write a big check to the MTA when we know that our constituents don't get any service. Yes. Well, if you're in Albany, and have been in Albany for a long time, you might not have that same sense of urgency about how destructive that kind of tax is to our local economy. And there are a lot of instances of that. And it's, so I feel as though the folks who have faith in me are right, or at least I hope they're right, that I would be able to bring a local focus, what it means, the laws that are passed in Albany, the policies that are put forward by legislators in Albany, what impact they have on real people, middle-class people, who are just trying to live their lives in the first district.
Yes, so we're in the first district.
Right.
That includes the same district that I'm assuming that Tim Bishop is in as well. Am I correct?
Well, Tim Bishop
different?
is in the United States Congress, and that is
So
a
the
little
line
bigger.
is a little bit different.
Yeah, bless his heart. He has to go all the way to Smithtown. The first
dear.
district in the New York State Senate, the westernmost boundary at its northernmost point is Port Jefferson, which is Senator LaValle's home, and then it goes kind of southeast to the Mauritius. Uh-huh. So Tim's, Congressman Bishop's district goes further west to Smithtown, I think.
So what are your goals once you get elected? Because I'm going to assume you're going to get elected, because I know that, women are going to want to at last see a woman going up to Albany from this area.
Yeah, it's exciting, and actually from all of Long Island, Phyllis, the last female senator from Long Island was defeated in 1984. Her name was Carol Berman, and a young assemblyman at the time left his assembly seat to run against her. That's Dean Skelos, who is now the leader, the majority leader in the New York State Senate. And that was the last time we've seen a female representative from Long Island. It's pretty crazy. It doesn't make much sense.
And I know that having worked with you before on some of the issues that face us here in East Hampton,
right.
Like we have, I'm from the Springs,
yep,
and we have
about
that
the housing issues.
Right. We have a big housing situation
yeah.
that we have consulted with you on your rental contract that you have and things like that. So I know that for one thing, you're well aware of our issues out here, which are, of course, our fishing, farming, industries, and trying to maintain some kind of balance with tourism and keeping our environment so that we have, continue to have the kind of environment that invites people. I always like to quote Tim Bishop on this, because he was the first one who ever said to me, the economy is the environment, and the environment is the economy.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
No one will come here if you don't have pristine beaches and beautiful, clean water.
And it's getting to a crisis point, actually, because of the nitrification. 70% of the first district, 70% of the Suffolk County is not sewered. It's, we treat our wastewater with the individual cesspools or individual wastewater treatment, on a residential level. And unfortunately, a lot of those systems are outdated or not well maintained, and there's a growing body of scientific evidence that points to the fact that it's the impact of those septic systems that is causing these problems of brown tides and the red tides that we see closing our shell fisheries.
Oh, absolutely.
We
have
reducing
some
the fin
real
fishing.
problems.
It's very, very serious.
But I would love to see, because I don't know that we can ever take all of this land and really sewer it, because it would be an enormous amount of money.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, it would really be
Is.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But certainly, if people would be able to upgrade their sewer system, their own septic systems, with something that works for the denitrification.
That's right.
And that has to come. That's got to be something that you get, some kind of tax credit or something like that, like we did when we took our oil tanks from underneath the earth.
That's exactly
and
right.
put them
Yes.
up on our, as soon as I knew that the town of East Hampton was going to give me a tax credit,
Right.
I did it immediately.
I met with the farmers. I'm liaison to the Agriculture Advisory Committee in Southampton, and we met with the farmers on that issue because it's really very important. But it's you do have to recognize that the financial impact, especially in these economic times, on individual homeowners is really you can't support it. The individual homeowner can't support those kind of changes. So
right.
You're right. We need incentives. We need to encourage the technology. That
Exactly.
sort of technology is the boom industry of this generation. And so I believe that it's a responsibility of those in policymaking positions to look for ways to encourage that sort of industry and that sort of innovation in that industry. And that's something that we've got to turn our attention to.
As well as wind and wave.
Absolutely.
They started wave power up in
Yeah.
Oregon coast.
Well, we have a situation on Long Island, as many people know, but I don't think people understand fully, where we have these outdated legacy power plants that are horribly inefficient. I mean, the power plant in Port Jefferson fires up 5 days out of the year. And yet the LIPA and National Grid, who own that power plant, are paying enormous taxes. And you know what those grossly overinflated taxes, where that cost goes, right to the ratepayer, right? That's one of the reasons why we have trouble bringing innovative industry to Long Island. It's very expensive. Our electric rates are higher than almost anywhere else in the country because of deals that were made.
I know it. You don't have to
Everybody
tell me. I
knows.
pay my
LIPA.
bill.
Exactly. LIPA, right? So, and those are deals that were made. Well, there is a power service agreement that was made between LIPA and National Grid when Lilco was broken up. It really is a crazy agreement that's very unbalanced. It really favors National Grid. LIPA agreed to take on these grossly overinflated taxes. And, it was to expire 15 years from the time it started. That would be May of 2013. And since that time, nothing has been done to address the inequities. Those high costs just get passed on to all of Long Island, and we're covering the cost. Meanwhile, I have to say the special interests, particularly National Grid, have been paying to the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee and to my opponent tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions, and so and nothing is happening in terms of balancing those inequities or changing that odd contractual arrangement. So I mean, it's very unfortunate, and that's the kind of thing when I say, when you've been in office for 36 years, you're focused on the special interests, you're not so focused on the localities. That's the kind of thing that we can't allow to continue. It's like the ethics. You can't allow it to continue.
We really need somebody to get in there who is going to be innovative and look for the kinds of things that we need as the people who live here in Long Island, which I dearly love. I mean, I'm crazy about Long Island. You know that's my message on my phone. I absolutely think it's the greatest place,
But you don't have to look far to find innovative solutions to this, because this is, this is the American way, American innovation. People see this as an opportunity. It is the boom industry, of our generation, which is the generation of energy efficient, of energy that's produced in a cost-effective and environmentally sensitive way.
And it's clean.
It's clean,
that is
exactly.
the thing.
But there are lots of folks looking to do that. The question is, how do we capture that? And how do we get out of their way almost? If you have these kinds of arrangements that tend to encourage folks to hang on to these outdated, expensive, dirty systems, then you're never going to get the cleaner, more energy efficient ones. it would be great to create incentives, but first we have to just get out of the way and let people who know how to do this. There are folks who want to repower those plants, but right now, unfortunately, they're not being allowed to submit their proposals in a way that's going to be open. There's a lot going on in that right now. There's a meeting of the LIPA trustees on October the 2nd, where the trustees are being called upon to extend that power service agreement. I hope that they see the light, myself, and don't extend it, because 15 more years of that same arrangement, is going to feed the special interests, but it's not going to get us where we need to be.
So what can we do? Should we call LIPA and say...
The LIPA trustees meeting is a public meeting, October the 2nd.
Where?
Well, you can go on the LIPA website, and if you type in LIPA trustees, it'll give you the agendas and when the meetings are, and get involved. It's super important, but it's very complicated. The contracts, the energy market is very, very complicated, and when you have complicated things and special interests with a big interest, it's easy to cloud the issues.
And hard to sort everything out.
And hard for you and me to sort it all out. But I'm on it. We're going to sort it out.
And not only that, but I think you got enough energy to do this kind of thing. I can just see it. You just, when we started this show, you said, "Oh, I'm a little tired. My energy." Well, my money's on you, honey.
Well, you know what? I think it also comes from the DA's office, maybe coming from a big family. When I see things that I don't think are right, especially when they're really not right, it makes me mad. And it does give me energy. It makes me want to fight. It's my nature.
Yes. Well, we're going to count on that nature. We're going to count on that nature to go in there and do right by us, because we do need this. We do need things to happen. I mean, there's no reason why there is not more emphasis on clean energy out here.
Absolutely.
And that we can get LIPA to do right by us.
Absolutely.
And the MTA. That's another one,
and
too. But that'll be another time.
And the school aid formula, that's another big one.
Oh, please. You're talking to a retired administrator and teacher.
It's a shame.
It's terrible.
Some formulas might work in good times, but not in bad times. We have to look out for our own people when times are tough.
And thank you so much for coming, and good luck.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Doesn't it?